Hi, this is nurse practitioner and attorney Joe Flores for yet again another episode of Nurse Practitioner Television. We promised you that we would be loading these up, not just my posts. A lot of the time y'all are busy and reading these posts can take a lot of time, so I thought I'd put it on video as well. We've loaded up videos on insurance issues, contract issues. We've talked about telemedicine, making your own house call company. We've talked about a course in legal nurse consulting, and also what if you were reported to your board of nursing, God forbid. But I also want to talk about something very important, and that is False Claims Act. Some people call it QUITAM. It's basically short for he who brings a lawsuit on behalf of himself and the king. It's an old sort of law, and really not to go so far back in history, but it's also known as the Lincoln Law. After the Civil War, many people tried to sell shoddy parts and weapons and things back to the government, and so the government had on the books for over a century and a half, we had a law to protect for the government from being taken advantage of. Well, the same thing now applies to healthcare fraud. I am working with many relators, nurse practitioners and nurses who stood up and who reported their employer or a doctor or a fellow practitioner that is committing healthcare fraud to the board. This is punishable by not only civil penalties, but by criminal penalties. What does it mean to be a whistleblower and False Claims Act? Well, that means that you're entitled to up to about 17% of the recovery. As a general rule, 10 to 17% of a recovery if you report healthcare fraud that's going on, but there are certain rules and regs on it. One of them being that you can't tell everybody and you can't post it on Facebook. You shouldn't. Because you may have criminal exposure. Again, this does not constitute criminal advice or civil advice. I'm not your attorney in your particular state, but we do have allies, and I do practice in every federal venue in the land if called to duty. But let's talk about that. The nurse practitioner or nurse who sees healthcare fraud going on, you have a duty to report that. But there's a way that there are incentives in place that the government has put in there that if you see healthcare fraud going on, we may file a lawsuit under seal, which means that nobody can see it in the federal court under the program PACER. You can go in there and look to see if there's a federal case being filed. And one of those issues is healthcare fraud that you don't want anybody to know about. We file under seal. And until the government unseals it, they have a time frame where we sort of work alongside the government, working alongside them. We work with the government to investigate the case. Often nurses and nurse practitioners are in the best situation to go ahead and whistleblow and let people know, but they have to lawyer up. Get a lawyer who handles False Claims Act, report it to that lawyer. If you have documents, there is an exception to HIPAA where you can literally print out documents, save documents, and you can give them to your attorney-client privilege, or to the government. And I would get an attorney. Why? Because that gun kicks as hard as it shoots, as we say here in Texas. Often if you report somebody, they'll say, well, you knew about it for 5 years. Why are you bringing it now? Maybe they didn't pay you enough. Maybe you're disgruntled. Maybe you knew about it and you're just trying to protect yourself. That's why my expertise dealing with the federal government and with the Medicaid tax fraud and Medicare tax fraud, my experience is you've got to be very careful that if you're going to stand up and you are going to protect patient rights and taxpayer rights, because we're losing billions to healthcare fraud right now. And we need people to know about that. So if you are going to report an entity or a healthcare practitioner that you think is committing blatant fraud, upcoding, there are several schemes, ghost notes where they said they went to do a visit and they didn't, or they're putting profits over patients in any way, we want to hear about it here in Nurse Practitioner Television. You can contact us at 361-887-8670 or joe@flotuslawfirm.com. This isn't a solicitation for business. We are just providing general information out there. I know a lot of you all as nurse practitioners. I'm a fellow nurse practitioner and RN for over 25 years. I know that sometimes you work for people you don't feel comfortable with, that they are putting profits over patients and they're doing wrong things, but you are trapped. You feel like if you do anything, you might get reported to the board. And that's why it's important to have an attorney on your side in your jurisdiction. If I can't help you, I'll get somebody who can. And so the purpose of Nurse Practitioner Television is to provide you with some general information. We've talked about the False Claims Act. We've talked about QUITAM. We've talked about how that works, filing under seal with the government and letting them investigate. You can help prevent healthcare fraud. You can help patient care by doing this. So this is Attorney Joe Flores signing off. Watch us, follow us, and like us. We're going to be on YouTube, Twitter. We're also making an app. And we're also offering continuing education on a variety of subjects. Thank you for listening. And it's 361-887-8670, 24/7. Try to answer all your questions. The purpose of these videos is to answer several hundred inboxes that I've gotten, and I'm doing a series of videos to maybe answer a lot of your questions. But remember, if you suspect healthcare fraud, get a competent lawyer to hear you out, get a consult. It may save your license, and it may save the lives of patients and money for the taxpayer. Thank you, and God bless.